Welcome, dear souls, to another episode of About Her. I'm so excited for today because we have the wonderful Ashu with us, and she is doing something that you might have never heard before, which is Feline Energy. And I am loving for you to tap into that wonderful tool. So, Ashu, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. And yeah, I would love to start with you sharing a bit of your journey and how you came to downloading the Feline Energy concept so that people kind of get
Thank
a
you.
bit of an overview.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Anna, for inviting me. I'm so excited to share everything for everyone here. My name is Ashu, and I am a spiritual business entrepreneur. I help spiritual businesses build six-figure months. I have a very fun bio. I'll talk about it in a second. And I am a feline energy activator, which is something a lot of people are usually curious about. If I were to tell you my story, there are two versions of this story. One is a little outdated, but exactly why I started my business was to make money. That was the pure and simple reason I started my business. And it started in 2020 when the world was going down. Before I knew it's going to happen, in Jan, my goal was to make this amount of money as an Indian woman, Indian girl, 18-year-old in uni doing her undergrad, trying to make enough money that I want to say fuck you money that people call, so that I don't have to worry about losing a scholarship and I can do all the co-curriculars I want. That was my whole point. And in Indian cultures, you don't have this thing that you do part-time jobs and you pay your own fees. That's not the conditioning. Your parents paid for you. So there's even more obligation and burden. So I thought if I could make enough money, then I didn't need the scholarship and I could just do whatever I wanted. So that's where I thought I'll take all the jobs possible. I took these tiny internships and everything. And I was making very less money from that. But I was like, oh, getting closer to my goal. I still laugh at it because the energy that Ashu 2020 had, I have to channel her sometimes because she was so ruthless with everything. She's like, oh, this didn't work. Let's go to the next. And she wasn't sitting and crying about anything. So that's when I was getting into self-development and everything. I've had a rough teenage, I would say. And when I got into self-development, I was able to pour myself with so much knowledge that I had to get it out of my system. So I made a page on Instagram and I would post randomly. And people started reaching out to me. People started asking me, hey, can you help me with this? And I was like, I'm an 18-year-old, at that time, 17-year-old girl. How can I help someone who has two kids? But whatever I knew, I shared, and it actually started working for them, and they were getting results. And I was like, whoa, I need to get a life coaching certification. So I got a life coaching certification. I'm just realizing I got it when I was 17. Wow. Okay. I got a life coaching certification. I then started offering these sessions, and my first session for 30 minutes was priced at $3. And I was like, people will love it. People will so many people will sign up. And September 2020, I put it out. I had 2 people sign up the entire month. And those were the best clients I've had. They still are in touch with me. They're so lovely. And from there, I kept growing. I went from life coaching to manifestation coaching. I've done spells, I've done tarot. I went from there and I built such a good business that people who were other spiritual entrepreneurs, they started asking me, how did you do this? How did you build a manifestation coaching business so well, or a spiritual business so well? I was like, oh, I can make a course on that. And I made another course on that. And people were getting results. And that's been my whole journey. I learned something, I implemented, it works. People ask me, I make a course on it. And then I shift into that. But there was this one point in India where people said that Instagram might get banned, which I think is a very relevant conversation right now. It didn't. There are other apps that got banned, but the Instagram app is still there. And people were panicking. I was cool, but people were panicking. And I was like, oh, these people don't know what email lists are. These people don't know all of these business concepts that I have studied and I am aware of. So I totally shifted into coaching spiritual entrepreneurs specifically. That was my whole business thing. And I was able to make 6 figures in the first 4 months of running my business, which I'm like, wow, I was able to pay my fees. I was able to maintain my scholarship. I topped my, batch, my class. and I got the gold medal and everything, and I went full time in my business after graduating. So that was like, even I made the money and I got everything that I wanted. I didn't have to sacrifice on anything. So I like calling this, you don't have to choose, you get to have both. This is a motto that I have, a big thing for my clients. But for the feline energy part that you've asked, so I recently moved to Australia in July 2023. And on 12th December 2023, I think, or 2024. I have to still remember dates. On 12th December 2024, I received this beautiful, wow, I'm so confused because it's the new year. We're recording this in Jan. It was 12th December 2023. Sorry, people. Sorry for confusing all of
I
you.
know those in the
Yes.
beginning of the
Yes.
year, it's always confusing.
Yes. Yes. So I opened my like channeling aspects and everything. So I used to channel regularly and I would ask for guidance and everything, which credit goes to all my clients, because every time I work with a client, they give me a new gift. They tell me, oh, this channeling, oh, there's Akashic Records, and I get to learn it. And I feel really great that I have all of these skills. So I was channeling, and then my guides were like, feline energy is your gift and you have to work on it. And I was like, I don't know what the hell that means. But it makes sense because I like cats, which was a recent love that developed in 2021. And I started making a whole event on feline energy. I got too excited. I didn't download the entire concept. I got booked out for 1 year for my private coaching from that event. And then I got lazy. And then my clients slowed down and guides were like, nope. Then I learned Akashic Records as well. And then my guides were like, now you have to sit down and download all the 5 pillars. You have to download all the aspects. You have to connect with every feline avatar. You have to foster cats. You have to open their Akashic Records and get gifts from them. And that led into a whole new journey. And now I feel more confident. And now I'm on podcasts talking about what feline energy is.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And what I really see as a golden thread is how fast you implemented things, which, speaking for myself and other lots of my clients, that's the thing, to really be confident enough to say oh, I've learned it. I feel ready to get it out into the world. Like the input output. Sometimes there's a big gap in between, and I don't see that with you. And I think that's really amazing that you've been able to really fast say, yeah, okay, I'll learn Akashic Records. I teach them. Yeah, I downloaded that. I'm creating an event, this courage. I feel that's kind of from what I know about the feline energy concept before, because we've talked before, is something that already came through, saying really go all in. Don't wait. Why wait? You're ready already when you have what you've downloaded. So there's no need to take prolonged periods of time sitting and waiting for the confidence to miraculously arrive. So yeah, I would love to touch deeper on this confidence, because I think it's a thing that you said you work with spiritual entrepreneurs only at the moment, and I feel like so many of us have this beautiful divine feminine flowy state, but then sometimes we lack the structure and the boldness to really carry out and share our wisdom with the world in a way that the world gets it. Not because we're, not because the information or the knowledge is not valid, but I feel like there's sometimes a barrier, and it's so good that this is something that comes easy for you. So that's a gift you can share with people.
I love that you pointed it out, because I think human design also has something to do with it, because I'm a manifesting generator in human design. So I tend to skip steps a lot. I tend to be very chaotic there. So I will be the most organized person, but I'll be like, I don't need to do this. And I'll skip step, and then I'll be like, oh, I've launched it, but I don't have the landing page. Oh, I didn't update the link in bio. So I've got a team member now to sort that out. But I used to behave that way. I used to launch 3 courses in 1 month, recording, scripting, everything, and launching in 1 month. I used to do. That's why I'm like, oh, 2020 Ashu was a whole different breed. So that's how I think about it. But I love that you mentioned about these spiritual people in general have such beautiful gifts that they can provide out to the world to help. But then they get scared, they have that fear, and they're not able to put it out there. One thing that I've learned is The people who get results are the people who take, like, the time they take between integration and implementation, they have it very less. So once you've integrated, I'm not even saying that you've listened. Integrate. Listen, integrate, but then implement. If your time between that is pretty big, then you're sitting on, and time is pooling around you. You have all of these results, all of these clients you could help, all of these people and the souls that you could touch, but that's not happening. Now, what you talked about, I like to call it, I like to call myself a translator, 5D to 3D translator. So all of my spiritual clients, they're like in the 5D or whatever D they are in, they're like, wow, this is so amazing. I'm just seeing these downloads. And then when they're like, I don't know how to speak about it. I don't know what offer should I create. How many calls should I have? What launch should I do? That is me, because I become that bridge, because I know what you're talking about. I know what you're channeling. I get your light language. I understand what you're doing. But I also know how to help the people, because the people you want to help are in the 3D. They're not in the 5D. So stop escaping to the 5D because the 3D is so painful. Go to the 5D to learn the lessons and expand your soul and everything, and heal yourself, and then come back down to help the people with the gifts, because not everyone is able to access their guides just like you can. Not everyone is able to receive the information and downloads and signs and healings like you can. And that is why it is so important that a bridge exists where we can get your 5D capabilities into 3D. And that's why I call that I help spiritual baddies scale from what the fuck am I doing to holy shit, I'm booked out with feline energy and no burnout.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's especially like two things comes to my mind. The first one is like what you said about escaping to the 5D, because I feel like the moment we learn all these amazing tools and we kind of get that we're able to like live in this wonderful world that is not so earthly, pain goes away, we're in that total bliss, but then it's like this, how can I use that? And I feel like so many people try to really escape their body, thinking that it's, we need to go to the 5D. So what's the body doing? So kind of like lessening its importance. And I think that's something that we need to work on, regardless of where in your journey you are. So like really honoring your body as a body, like by taking care, by going to the gym, by doing movement, whatever you feel called to, but like you're really caring for the vehicle you have here on this earth. And then also not just learning our spiritual wisdom for ourselves, because we are meant to share. And I feel what you talked about with bridging this is super important, because so many people I know, I've been raised in a spiritual community, the wonderful, most wonderful gifts, but not being able to like find a structure, find the courage, find the boldness, maybe even find like the technical pathways to really serve people who are not far in that journey. And yeah, everyone can get there for themselves, but it takes so much longer. So why not? Like you said before, like your clients gave you gifts. Why not take the gifts that we can get from other people who have maybe experienced what we have? And so that you have both, I think, is a really unique thing, because so many business coaches are just doing like the business stuff, and every spiritual entrepreneur is like, no, please don't. That's too superficial. So there needs to be kind of like this understanding of both worlds, and then like honoring the duality, but also like honoring how we can merge it in a way. And the other thing is the burnout, because I feel that goes hand in hand with knowing so much, being so much like out there and interested and curious about learning, and then not trying to be all over the place to integrate it, because there's no structure. There's maybe no like background knowledge about how to earth down the spiritual gift.
I love that you have mentioned that. There was one point that I really liked. That was the business coaches. When spiritual entrepreneurs go to business coaches, they hate every single thing that the business coach is telling them, but they force themselves to implement it. And then they do see results, and then they end up thinking this is the only way to get results. The reason why they hate it is because of that mismatch, because of that intentionality piece lacking. That is why when someone enters my containers, they feel like this sigh of relief and healing in just knowing the concepts and learning about selling. Like, for example, a spiritual person going to a normal business coach, they will, I posted this in my broadcast one day, that if you go to a business coach and say, I want to plan my quarter, that business coach is going to sit you down and be like, how much money you want to make, what offers do you have, let's price it at this, let's get you this many clients, and you will be done. That is not really digestible to this person, because they don't see any intentionality piece behind it. They see sheep being herd, and they see that they have to put in the work to get all of these people in and charge so much. So their offers don't feel aligned or anything. When I sat with my client to do the exact same thing, I was sitting down and I was like, okay, let's close our eyes and you are going to receive everything. I am not going to tell you what to do because it's your business. The spirit of your business chose you, not me. I could channel through it, but if you are capable of it, then let's get you onto it. And then I made her go through this entire guided experience. I opened my Akashic records to make sure the guidance that was coming was right. And then she said to me, Ashu, Jan, I am not supposed to do anything. I'm supposed to talk about my story. I'm supposed to do my, like, coming back, because she was coming back after a break. Feb, I'm going to get 2 clients. Imagine the certainty that you've received this guidance that I'm going to get 2 private coaching clients and I have to do this workshop. March, I want to do this. And my guides are also telling me to open another Instagram page for this entire different thing that I do. That would not come from do this, do this, do this. It just would not. And when you have that fulfilling space, you're able to go more. My guides are telling me to start a podcast to promote my private coaching. There we go. And that alignment is so beautiful. Instead of run ads, post every day. That just doesn't work.
Yes, I fully agree. And I feel the beauty of is it like really honoring our inner voice, our abilities, like to know what is best for us. And I think so often we kind of externalize our power and our guidance to tell someone else, the business coach or whomever is successful that we follow, to tell them how we should run our businesses. But who could do it better than you? And that doesn't go just for businesses, by the way. I feel that's something that we should like incorporate in all parts of our life, to like really trust ourselves, because as you said, there's no resistance. If you channel down the information about what you should do in February, then there is no resistance to doing it because it's coming from the inside and it's not something that you kind of get as homework, like in school from the business coach and you pay a lot of money to, but still there is this feeling of I need to fight against. So I feel you can, by tapping in the energy of what you just told, I feel like, oh my God, there is like, it's flow, but it's powerful, aligned action that is coming out of it. And it's not a constant fighting between voices inside your head that kind of like tell you what to do and then resist at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. But then the question comes is, Ashu, if I can just channel it myself and I know how to channel, then why should I even work with a coach? I can just do it myself. The point here becomes is the spirit of offer will see, or the spirit of business will see you in the pure potential field where it's seeing what all you are capable of. But you don't see yourself capable of it. You believe that you are as much as you can see. Your spirit of offer be like, okay, you are supposed to start a summit. You're supposed to gather 50 entrepreneurs and you're supposed to do it. And while you're downloading, again, you're escaping sort of, where you're downloading, you're like, wow, this is so great. Wow. And then you come back and you actually look at the work it would require. I don't know how to do this. Even if I know how to do this, I don't know if I can do this. And that grounding space required the entire time that a coach provides, and that like that self-belief work that you would also do with your clients is why everyone needs to work with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for honoring the coaching space, because I totally get what you mean. And there's just so many people saying like, well, I can do that for myself. But like, I think we've talked about when we were on last time for connecting, is normally like I feel the most important work I do is not one of these thousands of tools that I'm so passionate about, but like really being there, holding the space and holding the belief for the client in a way that provides confidence and clarity, but it's coming from the client. It's not coming from me. I'm merely there holding the space. And I feel that's what you're talking about too. It's like sometimes it's more like reassuring them or kind of finding structure in the downloads, and also accountability, because it's so easy to like, and we're again at the escaping part, to like say like, okay, I've downloaded this beautiful concept for the next year, but I'm kind of shying away from doing the summit with all these amazing entrepreneurs I've seen. So let's rather do this, and this, which is not like bringing my business forward, but it's like kind of escaping because there's maybe a limiting belief that is holding you back from it. And for that, I feel that's the most important part of a coach or a mentor who is really guiding you through these parts. It's not so much the information. It's much more like the embodying of the information in everyday 3D life.
I totally agree with that. And what you said about, there was this one point that you mentioned which has now escaped my mind, but about the fact that we are here to guide people spiritually and the coaching space and elevating it, because we are supposed to hold space. Yes, I remember you said about holding space and everything. We are supposed to ask powerful questions. That is what coaching is. Coaching is not teaching. So many people keep confusing it with that, oh, I need to get on a call and teach this person a new concept, and every single time I have to do something new. Only then they will think the investment was worth it, which is not true, because the investment is worth it when they are able to be aware of certain things. And a lot of people in the industry also do this. They just make people aware, but they do not go ahead and share how to work on it. That part is just not included, and they will just open up these traumas for people, and now the people are re-traumatized and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because that is something my husband and I talk a lot about it, and he's really grumpy about it. He's working more in the like physical world, doing lots of like somatics, but it's the same thing here. And I've realized that over the last decade in the coaching industry too, is that it's like unearthing trauma, becoming aware, but then people are left like, the session is over, goodbye. People are left with all this stuff that came up. And I feel like we kind of overstep boundaries here as an individual who unearthed this, or it came to you in that moment, because it's not coming natural. It's not okay, I decided I want to be like a business coach, so I need to open an Instagram page and get myself out there, and then these blocks around visibility come up and you work through them. But it's like kind of throwing everything that you've ever been traumatized in this or past lives at you, and then leaving you there saying like, well, okay, now you know. And yeah, okay, we know what to do with it. And often it's, what you said is really interesting, because I had that too when I finished my first coaching certification. I was like, okay, now I know all this stuff, but is it enough? Do I really know enough to provide like the support for people that my standard it is to provide? And yeah, it is, because it's not only the certificate that gives you the security, the knowledge, but it's much more about the energy and the belief that you have in your clients, and this like really holding them. And you mentioned the potential before, which I love. Sometimes I feel we have this filter for ourselves individually that is kind of like the pink glasses. And we kind of see all this potential or no potential, depending on your programming. But it's just one view perspective of the world. And as a coach who has experience in this and a good connection to yourself and your guides, you can like guide through, okay, now maybe start here, or maybe look in this deeper, and kind of guide them through the endless possibilities that each of us humans have, and to really not get into burnout, but really kind of have a bit of a structure around where to look next, because we cannot unearth everything at once, and we cannot teach everything at once. Even there's the potential for so many things.
Absolutely. That is actually what pushed me, because I've always wanted to do spirituality. I've always also wanted to be in psychology. So there was some tension that you should be a doctor and everything. You should not be a counselor, or what does a counselor do and everything. But I was able to finally convince my parents and I was able to go get a master's. So right now I'm doing my master's in counseling only because I want to be trauma informed. I want to be able to hold that space for people, and I don't want to be opening up things that I cannot handle on my plate for the person. So till that point, I was like, I think this conversation is better suited for a counseling session. Maybe you can book it here with this person. I know they're very nice and everything. But now I'm able to hold that space, which feels really great.
Amazing. Amazing. And for that purpose is like, it's so beautiful that we can learn and get new wisdom if you like really integrate it in your work. I feel so many of us like, no. We're kind of in the habit of learning, but it's about the implementation and it's about the trust in yourself. So here I feel it would be amazing to come back to the Feline concept and really the 5 pillars. You've touched on them early on, which I think would be like so interesting for people to know. Like if you feel you are in this space of, I have no idea, I need to get this out into the world. I know I'm meant for this or that service, but what now?
Okay, we'll play a fun little game. I want you to tell me, we'll talk about feline energy. I want you to tell me what's the first feline that comes to your mind right now. Okay, now I want you to tell me what qualities do you associate with a cat in your world. You don't have to be like I think or world thinks. You think.
So there's this smoothness of movement. There's this kind of flow. Then there's like a boldness in maybe setting boundaries or saying what you want. They're like really, really clear in what they want and what they not want. And also like tied together with this, it's like the contrary of people pleasing. I'm lacking a word, but there's like if I want to snuggle, then they come snuggling. But if you want them to sit on your lap so you can like kind of, brush their hair and they don't want, no chance. So this like being authentic and doing things only when you feel they're aligned. It's a really big thing that I see when I think about cats. And also there's a magical energy to them. There's like this mysticism around them. And they have this like the way they move, the way they climb trees, for example, there's this lightness and this they move through things where you think they could never move or hop on, where you think like that's too high, you cannot. But yeah, they can. So there's a lot of like internal trust.
Yes. Everything you've said. How are you somehow implementing that or somehow, even without knowing, doing that in your life or in your business? You can take any example, maybe jumping things that you didn't think you could do.
That's a good one.
You ended up doing it, and now you have a podcast. Now you have a guest on a podcast.
So that is a wonderful example because that's actually how I started it. I just did one post and then I had 160 people saying, I want to be on the podcast, and I don't know even how to like set up the software. So that's definitely a jumping thing. And then for the rest, I'm using the flow, like this smoothness. I'm using a lot. What I'm not using is this fierceness of saying no if I feel it's not aligned at the moment without feeling guilty. Cats don't feel guilty. So that is something that I can definitely, mirror back from them to me.
Exactly. So you now have yourself identified. I didn't even do anything. I didn't even tell you anything. You've identified where you're embodying feline energy already, and you've identified where you're not embodying it, where the gaps are, which comes into the pillars. Like once my clients are able to identify, I usually walk them through this long assessment where I'm able to figure out, okay, these are the pillars you need to work on. And being that Virgo side of me, I would map it out on a graph. I'll plot it and I'll show them here. These are the pillars you need to work on. That's the favorite part of onboarding a client for me. But there's the 5 pillars that healing and rebirth is where the first pillar comes in, where you are working on healing yourself, your generations, your past life, all of that. This is where I would do family constellations with clients and everything. So this comes into picture for people who are really struggling with money wounds that they don't really know where they're coming from. I don't know why I think if my business grows successful, I will not be loved by my family. I don't know where that's coming from. That's where we go into the root cause of it. I could use Akashic records for it to see if it's coming from past life, if it's a lesson that they're supposed to hear, and balance and everything. So healing and rebirth is that. The second pillar that I have is energy work. So these are not in order, they overlap. It's like a big Venn diagram, if you want to call it. Energy work is that art of conservation of energy that a cat does. Is like the best example because cat is the avatar of this pillar. And this is where you are setting up systems. You're making sure you have SOPs in place. You're making sure you're hiring someone if you need to. You're not always there in your business. You are moving it through. How people do it is spiritual world. People will be like, I'm cutting my cords. I am cleansing my aura. You also have to translate it into your business in 3D terms as well, which is cutting your cords with your clients. So you're not in there in Instagram or Telegram all the time. You're not voxering them all the time. So that's the real life cutting cords that you would do. So that's the energy work. Then I'm going to save yours for last, the one that you need to work on. I'll save it for last. The third is quantum jumps, the one that you just did. So you went from I just posted and now there's so many people wanting to get on my podcast. So quantum jumps is the cat's ability to jump 6 times their height. That's why they're able to jump anywhere that they want to be. And that's what I want to help my clients be like, even if you think, because sometimes you will see the cats get back and wiggle themselves up to pounce. That's what a quantum leap is. You need to sometimes get back and then wiggle a little and then pounce. So then it will be like I've had my biggest cash months. Before that month, I would have the lowest cash month. And I'm like, go back, I'm preparing, I'm wiggling, and then I'm going to go up and bounce on the goals that I have. This is where we work on the mindset, limiting beliefs, and everything that comes there. Then comes intuitive wisdom, which is the mysticism side that you said. So the fourth pillar being intuitive wisdom is where I use tools like channeling, tarot reading, and everything, the mystic side of things to help people understand, okay, your spirit of offer is saying this, your spirit of business is saying this. This is where you're not showing up. I channel content ideas for them. I would channel things for them and I'd be like, okay, this is what is coming through. You can cross-check your guidance and let me know if that resonates with you. The last pillar is fierce self-expression. This is the one that you're struggling with and a lot of people struggle with. And I always save it for the last because it's my favorite pillar because it covers everything. It covers your launches, your marketing, your offers, your messaging, and basically how you're doing. I literally sat in the morning today and I did a rebrand sort of everything and the tone I use in my coaching or like in my Instagram. That's the word I was looking for. In my Instagram accounts and everything. Because I realized I was becoming this ebook. I was becoming like an informational pamphlet for people and there was no personality of mine. And that was because my self-expression pillar was going a little low. I was getting into doubts of, do people want to hear me? Are people interested in me? No one cares about what I do. There are so many people who do the same thing and all of that random BS that goes on your head. That's the pillar that we work on. So these were like 5 pillars. And I think the 2 pillars that help you the most right now will be the energy work where the cat is able to say, this is my boundary. I'm saying no now. No more of this. No more pets. I've gotten my food. I'm going to go out of here now. And the self-expression pillar. So being loud, because if a cat wants food, she'll be loud. She will not stop no matter what you're doing.
Yes. And what I love about this is that it's so easy accessible because we immediately think about how the cat would behave. Even if you never had one, you kind of know like how they behave in these situations. And I feel it's like easier to form that mental image and then to like really accept it into ourselves, because it's maybe easier to ask yourself like, how would I behave when I were a cat and were hungry, instead of how you would say like, how should I, talk about my newest offer? So I feel it's much easier to like kind of bridge this gap that we've talked about before between maybe the 5D and the 3D, or your new version and your old version, because it's easier if you have like this kind of bridge in the form of this mental picture. And I love that. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for sharing. It's really amazing how they interweave, but
Yes.
are like separate at the same time.
Oh, yes, absolutely. They do overlap, but they are separate. And a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they might not resonate with any of the pillars because
Mhm.
these are pillars. What they are being are scaredy cats. If you think of a scared cat, her fur is all up and she's very scared and she's has her tail tucked in and she's not going to come near any human and is going to hiss at any human trying to come near her. This translates into anytime you see someone else do the same thing as you or even slightly similar, you feel like they are entering your territory and you feel scared and you feel like, oh, I need to tell her that she needs to mind her business and how dare she do this and blah blah blah, and feeling so enraged by your competitors that you would call at that point because you're in that scared cat energy who's not felt love, felt trust because she's gone through some things. Maybe she didn't receive food, like scared cat has not received food. She's seen the tough times on the street. But yours, in tangible sense, would translate into the tough times you've seen in your life. And now you've lacked that trust that you could have built in a healthy environment. So you have to work on that. And then you will become a ferocious feline. Then you
Mhm.
would step into that pillars and think of those things.
I feel safety comes in here very strong. Like how you describe the scared cat, it's like she's not feeling safe. And it's the same with us humans when we don't like fully shine or however you want to put it, like being really authentic. It's like we kind of feel not safe in doing so because of whatever had happened or we're playing in our mind. So it's about maybe even the beauty that cats have is like being so many things in such a short time span that you feel it's almost simultaneously happen, is that we can work on feeling safe whilst we're working on our communication, whilst setting up these energetic structures maybe. And the art in here, I feel, is coming back to the burnout piece that you've talked before, is to doing that in kind of a structure so that you're not all over the place and burned out, but with this boundary of saying, okay, that this is enough for today. I'm not voxering or telegramming anymore. Done. Resting on the couch.
I think you've grasped it very well. You've already gotten the concept. You are trained in feline energy now.
Well, that was fast. I had a cat. She helped me definitely grasping it. No, but I think it's really amazing because often these concepts are, or speaking for myself, the way I've downloaded the first few years of me being like channeling consciously, it was very intangible. And what I love about the feline thing
Mm,
is it's so easy to grasp because like when I started speaking light language at first, I've always seen these geometric shapes and patterns and colors. I thought like, okay, well, that's nice, but what to do with it? It's like bringing it really down, birthing it into a thing that is describable, that you can really get through to other people. It took me quite a while. And I think it depends on the information you're
mm,
channeling. But
mm,
the more down to earth it is, the more you bring it down into 3D, the easier it is for people to really get it. And it not just being a concept in your head that you benefit from, which of course ripples out
mm,
others, but like a direct serving benefit to other people is always
mm.
more tangible. And I think that's a really beautiful way to describe it.
I love that you mentioned it. That's exactly why I call myself a 5D to 3D
Yeah,
translator because I would be
makes so
doing
much
these
sense.
guided experiences, and my clients would be like, I'm sitting with the spirit of my offer and I'm seeing a hexagon. I am seeing a butterfly. I'm seeing this light orb. I don't know what that means. I'm like, that's your fucking branding. That's how you're supposed to put it together. Now let's go and get that thing going. And that's why I love being this person that I am because I'm able to channel. You are seeing something. I'm like, this is what it is. This is what it is. Because of the how deeply rooted I am in the 3D and how much I value money and how driven I am by it. I love being that materialistic girly, like a material girl. I am that, and I am able to see the spiritual sides of things. So I feel like I'm really honored to be able to help spiritual
Oh, yeah.
entrepreneurs do that.
Yeah, you can, because so often there's this belief. I had it for a long time. That's why I struggled for a long time with even starting a business or earning money is like, I've been brought up in a very spiritual household, let's say. And there was always this like, if you're spiritual, you don't value money that much. And I believed it for so long unconsciously. I wasn't even aware of it. But the choices I made in hindsight, like really were very clear, mirroring that back. And I love that you're not afraid about also loving the materialistic world, because we're here embodied on this earth in this moment, and there's all this beautiful stuff. It's there for a reason. So like releasing the shame around also wanting a good 3D life for ourselves is so important in the spiritual world, even more than it is in any other. If you're doing like, if you're working in a tech company or if you're working in fashion, then it's not much of a problem, maybe. But if you're working in something that is more intangible, more attuned to spiritual work and wisdom, then there's this belief of, yeah, well, if you really want to help people, why not do it for free? So, there's so much of this shame around having a good life, whatever that might look like for everyone differently. And I would love to ask you, like, the way you've incorporated that courage or this like really firm standing in, oh, I also love the materialistic life. Is this something that you've worked in with the feline, or was it just naturally for you to be very grounded in both?
I think I would say both. Everything, like feline and everything. We don't choose, it's both.
No,
Because the feline part of it helps, the healing and rebirth pillar helps me to heal quite a lot of stuff that was going on with my family and my past life. Like one of my lessons this life is to learn how to balance relationships and money. Because in most of my lifetimes, I've been a little money obsessed and I have sidetracked my relationships, and this life is about the balancing act. But that made me, okay, this is again another feline aspect that, oh, this is an intuitive guidance that you've received. Now you have to go and work on it. You get to implement it. But from the other aspect, money has been extremely important because of the kind of family that I grew up in. They're very beautiful, they're very lovely, but they're also having their own lack mindset around, no, don't spend money on this. No, this is a waste of time. I would not buy myself clothes for years because these clothes work, they fit. There's just one hole in it. It's okay. And that is the kind of family I am living with. And I would see these people buy clothes every single year, multiple times a year. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I had to realize that what are the lack mindset things that I have around money, around spending, around saving, around hoarding. And I had to move through it so that I could provide myself everything that I had been desiring, which I have been able to do. And then I get to see how juicy it feels to be able to go to a hotel that you've always wanted and take that bubble bath. And I'm like, oh, every woman needs to experience this. And then I help them make it through their business.
Yes. And I agree, because there's like the joy that you get when you do something that you've wanted for a long time, but you've kind of like not allowed yourself for various reasons. You didn't go to the bubble bath before. It might be financial reason, might be other ones. It doesn't matter that much. But like if you do and you realize how amazing it feels, like this allowing ourselves, it's more than a bath. I'm sounding like I want to sell bubble bath, but like it really is. What I want to say is like this being really gentle and nice to ourselves and really caring for ourselves in overflow. That is something that we can really learn, that we can really embody, because it's not a selfish act. We've made to believe that it's a selfish act in a certain like kind of community, but it isn't. So ditching that belief and moving through all these things, like you said, oh, your clothes work, why buy new ones? Like, that dress is like, my dress is so big, I could fit it in 3 times, but I love it, so I could wear it with my whole life, but maybe I don't want to at some point. But why not give yourself the joy of reinventing yourself, especially if you've just changed so much inside, then that reflects on the outside. Why not? There's always this like suppression, but why not?
Yeah, like things, very tiny things. I've always wanted to try press-on nails. They cost like $1, but I would still not buy them because I'm like, oh, that's waste of money. I wanted to try fake tattoos, the ones that are temporary. I'm like, but that's a waste of money. They cost less than 20 cents sometimes. And there's a waste of money. It makes no sense. So I love that you brought that up. Yes, it's been
Yeah.
such a lovely conversation.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much. There's so much going on in my head, but I feel it's a good time to wrap it up to not like overload people with too much information at a time. I thank you so much for bringing that concept to us. It's a wonderful one, and I feel so many people can benefit from it. So, I will link your Instagram in the captions below. Is there any else in the other way that you want people to find you? Where you most
Absolutely. So
with?
Instagram is the best. Instagram is where I live, breathe, and I have a house in. But I also have a podcast called Your Spiritual Business Podcast, Your Spiritual Business Coach Podcast. So I'm the host of that podcast. That's like a coaching daster with me. And I have a free feline training that will be in the link in bio when you get onto my Instagram. So I know you have questions. I know what is going on. So I'm also going to be walking people through that assessment that I talked about in that like training. So you can go ahead and access that, and it's going to help you so much grasp what areas, like I helped you be like, okay, these are the true pillars you need to work on just by looking at what you said. Everyone will be able to walk away with exactly what pillars they need to work.
That is amazing. So that's definitely something to check out, to like get in contact more and to have the first, because I feel like always when we have the first insights and things are getting so much clearer already, then there's this like, there's this like, oh, okay, that's what I can do with it. So, amazing. Go check that out. Definitely. Ashu, I thank you so much. This was such a lovely conversation. I had so much fun and so many insights, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a lovely conversation. Talking to you always brings me so much joy. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise, likewise. I am wishing you a wonderful day, and I will check out your podcast. I haven't had time. I will go in there and listen to your podcast. Thank you, my dear.